thank you to be here and share with you this experience of this organization that we found, my wife, me, and the other Mexican friends.
Everybody here? Okay.
Yes, around 25 years ago. In the 70s, I was traveling Mexico, as many people they do from the States, from all over the world. And I spent 6 months in the mountains with the Indian people, and I discovered a great culture that I never read in the books. I never find in the newspaper. And after 6 months, I went down to Central America, to Colombia, and in my mind, I was just one idea to come back in Mexico. And 3 years later, I did come back, and later I found my wife there, and we were very interested how the Indian people they do, they work, they live. So she was teaching in the university. I started to teach in another university nearby, and after 2 or 3 years, we decided more to move to the countryside and try to build something with the people. Was not clear what we are going to do. I come from countryside in Italy. My family were a large family, and many large family, they never trouble to eat. They never had trouble for food. We were poor in Italy, it's true, but every day when you sit down, you have food, you have plenty of food, wine, of course, and it was not like this in the countryside in Mexico. And I didn't understand. I couldn't just accept in my mind. After we stayed 1 year in one village, try to watch to the people. My wife, she likes photograph. And we come back in Italy, and in Italy, we find the NGO. They just went to see an exhibit, and the president said, "Oh, I think you have a good relation with the people, because these people that you photograph, they are natural. They show that they have a good relation with you. I can help you with some money. We can fund your project. Just try to precise what you can do." 10 years earlier, I was in contact with other people working in Latin America, and an organization in Rome, they offered to me the same condition. But just in the moment that we were to sign the contract, they asked to me, "Please, Sigismondo, you know that the Catholic will be the first." I said, "Thank you. The Catholic Church did a lot of bad in Latin America. I don't want to do anymore." So I refused. I was a little bit naive, because later I understood that I could do what really I want to do, but in that moment I refused, and 10 years went over. So with this friend, we start to speak and say, "Okay, you go back to Mexico and come back with some proposal." And that's happened 1 year later, because we had a different relation in different part with Indian group of Mexico. I don't know if all you know Mexico, but in Mexico you have 51 different ethnic groups living from north to south. We are talking about 25, 30 million of Indians, 100%. Talking different languages. They have a different culture. They have different uses, and they have a different identity. Of course, all of them pay the consequence of 500 years of conquest. And this is something very, very important. If we don't realize how bad is the conquest,
Conquest. What is that word?
Yeah, conquest.
Conquest, yeah.
Yeah. If we don't realize this, we cannot understand the actual situation in Mexico. So we went back, we bring 4 proposals, and the one with the Mayan people was the most interesting. We start with a really very, very small money down in the state of Yucatan. I always fought to work in tropical area. Today, I want to go back to the mountains because it's no easy the life in tropical area. And the first month, we were watching the village, what's happened, and soon we see exactly, we start with a group of women that they want to do something. They were very interested in our way to work with them. And we make the first irrigation unit, water. Why is so important? In Mexico, this is a lot of water, a lot of rain, but we have two seasons. We have the rain season and we have the drought season. And during the drought season, nothing. You can produce absolutely nothing if you don't have water. So we start with this small unit, and after 2 months, we have people coming from 10, 12 villages, coming to the village where we stay, if they can be part of the program, if we can work with them. And of course, we said it's not easy, because we must find the money to make infrastructure, to dig the well. And so we have been working there for 3 years, but after the 3 years, we were obligados?
Required.
How?
Required.
Required to find the NGO. That's how born El Hombre Sobre la Tierra, which is humankind on Earth. Actually, we work in 32 communities in 7 different municipalities. I will try to, okay, go on. Okay. I talk about the foundation. Our work right now, yes, we try to improve the condition of the people. But it's not just to improve the condition of the people. It's to create a condition where young generation, they can stay in the village. Where the young generation, they don't have to go to Cancun or come to United States. We don't talk about this because everyone here, they know what's happening, what does it mean come to United States. So the organization, the first thing we have to realize, working with the Mayan people, what represent. What's the name? Was talking about Indian. He talks so many times about poverty, about to be poor. Yes, Mayan people are poor, but no, they're not just poor. They're the region of a very important culture. One of the most important all over the world. We have Greek, we have Egyptian, Etrusc, okay, and we have Mayan people. This is one of the large, and even today, when you live with them, when you share the life, you can discover that these people, yes, are poor materially, but it's not just what they have. This is something else inside. Their tradition, their way to survive to 500 years of history that they didn't have any chance. They didn't have, they couldn't make any decision because the government or the rich people, they were decide. So we must understand this thing. And because otherwise the poverty will be still there. We try to build this reality. We try to respect the people. We try to understand the people. And of course, it takes time. But at the same time, was such rich experience because we were changing our knowledge, we were changing our experience with the people. And we start to build. We start to make a kind of development endogenous.
Indigenous?
No,
Local?
no.
Native?
Endógeno, yes.
Oh, yeah, native.
Okay? And we don't want the people do the same thing that we do. We want to bring to the people they do what they like to do and to make their decision. But give to the people the chance to make a decision. Because if a family won't send a kid to the school and they don't have money, the kid doesn't go to the school. And if we talk about university, we live in Yucatan now since 25 years. In 25 years, I know just one man, son of a Mayan family who is doctor. All the doctors that we can meet during 25 years, they are not Mayan. And when the Mayan people, they go to see a doctor, always it's the trouble because they don't have enough time. They can explain the trouble. Yeah, I know, you show me 2 minutes, but maybe I take a little time over the answer, over the question. Something that is important, I don't know if you know the history of Mexico. They have a revolution exactly 100 years ago. But the Mayan people, they had the revolution 50 years, just later. The revolution in Mexico, they didn't help the peninsula of Yucatan. They have later with a man called Carrillo Puerto. And this man that very, very few people, they know he was a real hero, yes, for the Mayan people, because he was governor of Yucatan. He closed all the hacienda, which were large farms where the Mayan Indians, they were slaves, just as a slave, and he was killed 2 years later with his 7 brothers. So, el esfuerzo de los mayas,
Mayan,
l'intento de cambiar la situación,
okay, so the effort to change
yes,
the situation.
was stopped, was brought down, okay? Finally, few years later, the Mexican government distributed the land, and today we can find most of the community where we work, they have their own common land, which is not really very easy to work, because you can go to the fourth one. Yes. Because it's very stone. Most part of the peninsula, it's very, very stone. So all the agriculture is done by hand. This is no other way. But we try to do agriculture, and we try to do other different activity. The obstacles, the difficulties are different. I want to touch a little bit this thing. How we say the paternalism, that's what you said in English? Okay. You know the people, in the last 8 years, they receive a little money from the different party, so the politicians, they can guarantee their success, okay? Most of the program, they are not adequate to the local condition. And sometimes the people, they are very, very connected to the traditional way. And it means, for instance, the fire, this is the technique used to do agriculture. And in some time, we recognize that it's good, but we try to do permaculture, but still is the fire there, the use of the fire. Later, we can explain more about this. Slash and burn, probably you know this well, but maybe for the people, I don't know if it's something common. And another trouble, it's the manipulation from the politician and from the religious. You don't imagine, in Yucatan, I know some village where we might have 8 different churches. coming from the United States. I apologize for this. I know we are in the United States, but you don't imagine how bad it is for the community. How I was explained, we try to work to make better the agriculture system, doing agroforestry and doing different things. We try to make it different activity. So we start to work with women. How you say? Costureras?
Seamstresses.
That's what.
Seamstress.
Yes, that's the way that we started to collaborate with Shashi and Maggie. And this is something so common with India. Yes, it's easier to work with women. It takes time, but when they start to do something, they are much more responsible. They are much more. But that's the reality, you know. I mean, that's what you can do. They really, when they want to do something, and they have. I don't want to talk now about the trouble because it's exactly the same with the husband, with the boyfriend, you know. But right now, there are more than 250 women that they can make their job. Most of them, they don't think to get married anymore because the marriage is seen as a way to find the solution, okay? And what we try to do is that the people, they can have a control of what they produce, of their food, have a control of their water. Since 4 years, we start to do a purified system of water, so the people in Yucatan, or the peninsula, we don't have a map. Huh? This is not a map in the. Oh, that's for me. The peninsula of Yucatan, probably most of you don't know because they've been vacation there. You know, all the water it's administered by Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola. So what we do in the village, we dig our own well and we put a purified system. And in some village, Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola, they don't sell any more water. And this is something so good, you know, so nice. And right now, with the new government, because the government just leaving, they decide the water was privatized. And now, just this new government that I am not so enthusiastic because I never believe in politicians, so I can't say anything. But he decided that the water is from the government. It's not going to be any more privatized. So I mean, the community, they are going to have their permit, their authorization to exploit the water. And the water, the quality of the water, it's even better than the water that Coca-Cola and Pepsi, they sell. This is the strategy of the NGO, is that the people, they have a control in the activity, and many times we think that yesterday when we were talking about this workshop, the people they say, where do they sell things? But we have to think about two things, very, very important. Men all over the world need two basic things, heat and dress. So that's what just like we do. We try to produce all the local population they need, and of course build the clothes that the population they need. In Mexico, kids to the school, they have a uniform. That's what you say, uniform? And we realize, in the place that we have 18,000 students, they must have 2 uniforms each one, which is 36 uniforms. And where do they come from? The director of the different school, they have their own workshop, and they sell the uniform to the family. Today, the dresser, ¿cómo se dice? La costurera?
The seamstress.
The seamstress, they do the uniform for the kids. And this is the way that we have been working. I think I get most of them to go over. Yes, we go to the last one, the integral woman. I think that's the most important. Okay. The results, well, you can see there. We work actually more than 1,000 family. I don't want to say that 1,000 family are rich, but they have all a little chance to make a better life. We have now kids going into university. In a town here, we built an house where the kids they can stay in this city. They start to do, so they don't need to pay a rent that was impossible. There are many many units. They are in sustainable technique, for instance, with permaculture, agroforestry, or silvopastorile. You know that?
Working with cows in forested areas.
Yes.
silvopastoril.
Yes, and of course the main of the thing of the water that they can say. And just during this moment, we are installing 10 different systems to capturar agua de lluvia.
So rainwater capture.
So for the people during the summer, even people that this is not purified center, they can have a good water because in Yucatan, probably maybe all over the world today, the better water is from the rain because all the ground with pesticide and many other things, the water is not good anymore. And okay, this is our sponsor. And especially, I want to close with the participation with Shashi and Margaret. They financed another one workshop with these people, and in this place, we bought a piece of land. We are just to make a completely center for the women, where will be the workshop. It's already done a well with ¿cómo se llama? Un tank?
Okay.
Yes, to grow the fish. And at the same, in this moment, we are just building a large hall where we can make the meeting. This village in the municipality of Yuskaba is very, very isolated area where this is no many chance for the women to work. So this is the work that we do. I apologize if I take more time.
We've got about 10 minutes for questions.
Okay.
So, I just wanted to set the stage by saying, what did we really take away from Sigmundo's and Angela's organization? I think the aspect that we found very interesting is that it wasn't a single solution, it was a complex and compound solution. So what they've done is they've got the project that we funded, for example, had 4 components. Of course, there was the training for the seamstresses, but there was also a water well.
With a solar system.
And a solar system.
Yeah.
And most importantly, from our point of view, this entity became a resource for the rest of the village. So the water that they produced was shared by the village. The fish they created in the pond was shared by the village. So they became a resource for the rest of the village and not just an island unto themselves. So I think this is what I would like to have you think about, what you can do in your areas to take this idea and adapt it and make it work in your circumstances.
Thanks a lot, and I think this is something basic because Ticolo, that's the name of the village, it's the 4th village where we built a lot of infrastructure. Another one that we didn't have the chance to know when you came, they have tourism community, they have a workshop that for the work of the wood, okay, and they have a group of women, they have a little cyber cafe. So, I mean, this is to have this different. This is something that's very important, to do activity that are not related with the climate. In Yucatan, we have a hurricane, very strong. We have the natural of the soil. We have the climate change all over the world. So we try to to promote, to push work that it's not directly related with the climate.
And you know what I loved is identifying a tremendous need. For example, there were Korean companies that were making all the garments, and that put all the local seamstresses out of business. And then one day the Korean company decided to leave, and there was a huge vacuum. So that's where this, teaching them, the villagers again, how to sew was filling. Do you see what I mean? There was like a hole crying for some, input. And if you have a cafeteria that they learn to run, I mean, it's not just these 4 things, but the concept of how do you create an organization that has multifaceted dimensions and which becomes a resource for the community as well. So that's the dimension that I thought was most interesting.
Thank you, Shashi.
Yeah.
Okay, if you have any questions?
I had a quick question. Sorry. I enjoyed the time you took to talk about the history, and you brought up a few things that I thought were interesting that maybe we all share in some of the contexts where we work about, how do we decolonialize our processes and to make better program design was one, and how do we incorporate indigenous technical knowledge? Because one of your slides said, these communities actually possess something that we can benefit for in the future with climate change and other issues. So getting back to, those 2 themes, is there any one aspect of your program that you think, like indigenous knowledge,
Okay.
we can learn from?
For
using
instance,
that? Yeah.
when we start to work, was a lot of species of the vegetable and seeds they were losing. So just visiting some isolated countrymen, we discovered that they have. So we try to bring these seeds and we start to produce and we try to distribute to the people. Today, this is more than 10 species of different vegetable they were loose, and now the people they use again. So this is just one example. The way that they do agriculture, the Mayan people, when you work with them down in the jungle, we identify 75 different species of tree. They know each one how you can use for timber, for medicament, for medicine, okay, for forage for the animal, or to build the house, okay. So we try to plant this kind of tree because just of the slash and burn that they use. That's why I said I don't know if we want to talk later about slash and burn because this is very complicated way to do agriculture. In one way, all over the world, we criticize this system, but we must know why the Maya, and not just the Mayan, all the tropical area, they do slash and burn. So, we try to introduce permaculture and try to reduce little by little the slash and burn, but the slash and burn has so many quality, that we can talk later. So there are many things that we can recuperate from their way to do things. And especially the way that they face the trouble of the life. Yucatan is the state of the Mexican Federation that you don't have so much violence. The people, they are always tolerant. When something happens, what we like to do is, we must judge this person, we must punish this person, But they have a different attitude. Many times they said, give him the time to see what he was doing. And the community, they isolate him. So this is thing that, I don't know if I explain, so there are so many things that we can understand.
Great.
And yes, it's true, this is a lot of poverty, but it's not just poverty.
Okay, thank you. Great, good job. Thank you.